All right, guys, happy Wednesday. I'm here with Lissette Hurtado, and today we're going to talk about everything appraisal. So first of all, Lissette, what the heck is an appraisal?
Okay, an appraisal is a very important tool for the buyer, and it's specifically for the lender. They want to make sure that the property that you're purchasing is valued at the amount of loan that you're taking out. They're using your house as collateral. So God forbid in the future you end up in foreclosure and they have to take over your property, they can sell your property and recover the money lost on the loan that you defaulted on.
That's a great point. And I think a lot of people think, well, why don't we get the lender involved in this, or realtor? Why don't you call them and make the numbers work so we can get this deal put together? But this person is hired as a third party, somebody who's not involved in the transaction. They're not making any commission, nothing, like they're getting a flat fee for doing this, whether it sells or not, with the purpose of protecting the bank. So these people are built, their job is built so that they cannot be influenced by people like you and me, right? Salesmen who want to get this deal done, which is phenomenal for the banks, right? And even though it might suck on a particular deal, it's really good for the economy. It's good for the housing market as a whole over the long run. So that's a great point that you started with. So in today's market, we're seeing a lot of really unique things, some really important things when it comes both from the buyer side and from the seller side with appraisals. Why don't you start us off and give us a couple things that we need to think about, know about, whatever it is, strategies when it comes to appraisals in today's transactions?
Well, on the seller side, remember, you want to present your property in its best light as possible. A lot of the things that the appraisals are looking for to see, are there any upgrades? So specifically, take a look at your kitchen and your bathrooms. That's where I think you get the biggest bang for your buck when you're thinking of upgrades. You want to take care of any maintenance items that you have on your to-do list. Remember, you're comparing your property with other properties that recently sold, and those properties were probably at their best. So you want to make sure you make your property also at best level it can be, so it could be valued correctly.
I think that's those are some great points. And when we're looking at, let's take it from a seller's point of view, right? We're the listing agent, and you've got a seller. The first thing I'm going to do when I sit down with them, when we're talking about pricing, is I'm going to explain to them, especially in this market, right? Because let's say we got a $400,000 home. We look at the comps and we say, all the 390s and lower, not quite what you've got. All the 410s and better, you can see the difference, right? The value difference. So yours is right around $400,000. Okay, that makes sense. So what does every seller say? Let's start at 4.25, right? That's what they all say. So I think it's important in this market because you might get 410, 420, 425 for that house in this market. The problem is when the appraiser comes out and does the comps, they're going to see the same thing that you and I saw when we did the market analysis. So even though we can get that offer in a lot of circumstances, it's a challenge getting the funding because the funding is based on the appraised value, right? So I really think that having that expectation management up front, that conversation up front, is absolutely critical. Is that something you're doing with a lot of the sellers that you're working with right now, and how's that going?
Every single one, because we're all encountering the issue where we're seeing properties being sold a lot more than maybe they were sold 6 months ago. So everyone thinks that they could go a little higher than that last sold price. But we have to keep the appraisal always in mind. For me, it's one of the most important things when listing a property. You don't want to come across where you get this amazing offer and then the appraisal comes in and then you have two options. One, the deal falls apart because the buyer can't come up with the additional funds, or you as a seller, you're stuck now lowering your price $20,000. And that's a sad position to be in. So it's good to study the market, look at your comparables, and price it accordingly.
So if I heard that and I wasn't in real estate, my question would be, okay, cool, Lissette, but that doesn't make any sense because how would the market ever increase then, right? If all it's based on is past results, that doesn't make any sense. And really, there's three ways, right? Because what you're saying makes 100% sense. Like that is what happens, but the market also increases. So how does that happen? It happens by, number one, appraisers are allowed to add a certain percentage, or in some cases, when the market's down, take away a couple percentage points in value based on the current market, right? The other thing is you've got cash situations. If you're paying cash on a $400,000 home and you want to come in at 600 grand, you can pay whatever the heck you want. You're cash, man. You can do whatever the heck you want. So especially down here in Florida, we're a little bit more cash heavy because we're a retirement community. We've got a lot of people down here that are a little bit older, a little bit more cash. You're going to see that a little bit more often. And then the third thing is you can also guarantee shortages, right? So let's say I'm funded, whether it's FHA, conventional, VA, doesn't matter, for, let's just stay with that number, $400,000. And I want to make my offer competitive. So I'm offering as a buyer 410, right? If that appraisal comes in at 400, I'm only getting financed at the 400. That doesn't mean, like, let's say I'm on an 80-20 conventional, right? That'd be 320 financed with 80 grand cash down. That doesn't mean the 400 is financed. It means the lending is based on 400,000. So I'm going to get 320. I still got to come up with 80. If it comes in at 4 instead of 410, I have to come up with another 10 grand in cash. And right now we're seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of that. In fact, man, I'm making this up, but it's probably pretty accurate. I would say over the last 5 deals I've done where I've had multiple offers on my listings, probably 4 of them, at least one of the offers guaranteed a certain part of that shortage. Is that something you're seeing either as a buyer's agent or as a listing agent?
Yes, across the board. And for me, it's very disappointing when you have your sellers so excited that they're selling this property at 425. They've got a contract in the hand, and then the property comes back appraised at 400. So that's why checking your expectations at the beginning is so important. And communication throughout the process. You know, it's, again, I have to emphasize, take a look at the comps and see what's being sold out there. And your property may be amazing to you, but it may not be worth the additional 25,000 that you think it is.
Yep. And I'll throw out 2 last things here. Number one, terms matter, right? We're talking about guaranteeing an appraisal shortage. So let me say that one more time. In this market, people are coming over value, right? Overpriced, over value on their offers as a buyer. So what's happening is that $400,000 home that comps out at $400,000, the appraiser's coming in at $400,000, but I want to pay 410 as a buyer. You can do that, but that difference you're going to have to pay in cash, right? So right now, if you've got 2 different buyers, you're the listing agent, Lissette, and you've got one buyer coming in, same offer, both are offering $410,000. Neither one is guaranteeing a shortage on the appraisal, but one is conventional and they're putting 20% down, and the other one is FHA putting 3.5% down. Which offer are you going to take?
I'll go with the conventional. And I learned that the hard way, because we unfortunately had a VA offer and the appraisal was extremely low. And this buyer wasn't really looking to put additional funds out of his pocket to come up with the difference. So that was a bit of a hassle we had to work out.
Yeah, and the sexy thing about a VA loan and FHA loan are they're either 0% down on the VA or 3.5% on an FHA. That's what attracts people to those loans, right? And even when you got the 3.5% down on an FHA, a lot of those people are saying, I'll pay $420, but I want you to pay $10,000, $12,000 of my closing costs, right? So when those people are that tight on those types of loans versus a conventional buyer who's putting 20% down so they don't have any PMI, the odds that a shortage is going to be covered by that buyer just increase dramatically the more cash they bring in. So I think that is a great point too. And then when it comes to the age-old trick of providing comps to the appraiser before they actually get out there, is that something you do? Do you take advantage of that?
I do, and I've done it. It doesn't mean it works every single time, but you as a realtor, you have to be ready to come back that appraisal, especially in today's market. So come do your homework, do your research, and have that information ready. So maybe you could start off the process on the right foot, and they do come back at that contract price. And if they don't, you have the information to support your argument why it should be.
Yeah. So we've got my favorite health insurance provider on the Treasure Coast, Mr. Paul Gray, asking if we have 150 grand cash down, does that put us in a better position than other buyers? You're damn right it does, Paul. He's throwing a softball. So go ahead. What's your answer to that?
Oh, most definitely. I had this conversation with another seller recently, and he's like, do you have any offers that are putting more cash down? That just makes them feel more secure in their offer. They know that you're a strong buyer. They're definitely going to want to go with your offer over someone that's putting 0 or 3.5% down.
Yeah. And let's just take a scenario where, let's say Paul's going after a I better use an odd number here. Let's say a $400,000 property, right? We'll stick with the same number. And to get rid of that private mortgage insurance, you need 20% down. So he's putting 80 grand down, financing 320. That's what he would have to do to meet those standards. But he's putting 150 down. He's only financing 250, right? Now, if he's offering 410 and it falls at I almost said 4 o'clock, at 400,000, right? That's where the appraiser comes in. He can say, okay, well, instead of, putting 20% down, I'll put a little bit less down and I'll cover that shortage and no big deal. So you are in such a better situation. But Paul, if you're putting 150 down and you offered 410 on that property and the appraisal comes back at 400, if you've got an appraisal contingency in there, you still can say, we want to back out, right? So you can choose whether or not you want to move forward. But if you want to make that offer look good up front and you've got that much cash down, you can come in and say, we're going to cover that shortage no matter what, right? So great question, man. Lissette, anything to end on?
You know what? I just recommend everyone to do your homework and come into the transaction with an open mind and be ready. We all hope to walk away with what someone offered us and what's on contract, but make sure you understand what the market's at and know that the appraisal may be an issue down the road. So, have that as an expectation.
Yeah. And I would say too, I have seen enough agents, CMAs, right? Comparative market analyses. And I'll just say this, sellers, when you look at these, challenge them, challenge your agent, challenge me, challenge Lissette and say, I don't get this. Why does this present a good comp, but this doesn't present a good comp? Make it make sense to you, because when that appraiser comes in, you want to make sure that they are agreeing with those values too. Otherwise, you're going to be in a tight situation. So I think that's a great point too. Lissette, I appreciate it. Good to see you as always. And I will talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Bye, guys.